I was able to negotiate a salary that was 40,000 above my past salary, having some benefits that I didn't even ask for. I should be being compensated more. I don't have time to waste trying to figure it out on my own, but the formula within the program, it gave me so much confidence.
Welcome back to another episode of the Career Dive podcast. Today, I have another special guest, our own client from the Star Candidate Program, our coaching experience, Dyana. I really wanted to bring Dyana to the podcast because her story is something that I believe everyone should hear because she joined us at the end of the summer, about 8 or 9 months since she got laid off and started job searching. And what I think is so interesting about her experience is that she knew that job searching means relationships, it means introductions and referrals and networking. And that's actually how she always got jobs in the past. But this time she quickly realized that the market has shifted, that she needs to be even more intentional with networking and introductions and conversations than ever before. She realized that what she was doing wasn't really leading to the results that she was hoping for. And she also knew that she really needed to elevate her positioning game and her interview game if she wanted to really elevate her income and the seniority level. So she just signed a new offer for a VP of customer success with one of her target companies, which, by the way, was one of the companies that she told me about when she first joined the program. So everything really came together for her. And the best part, she got 40K plus to her previous salary. She got a signing bonus. She got stock options. So she got an amazing offer. And in this episode, you will hear all about how we negotiated this offer and how uncomfortable it was and how proud she is of herself for getting this offer. And what's really powerful in her story is that she originally got introduced to the hiring manager, who is now her direct manager, in August. Then in September, she had her first meeting with them. And then she spent September, October, November prepping for interviews before the role was even open, but she knew it was coming down the pipeline. She stayed in touch with the hiring manager. She got all the possible intel that she needed. She went through a number of interviews, and then in December, she got her verbal offer. And I really want for you to hear her story because it's so important to see what this journey can really look like and what really elevating your skills, your job searching skills, your networking skills, and positioning skills can do for you really in a matter of 2, 3, 4 months. I'm so excited for you to hear this story. With that, let's dive in. Diana, hello and welcome to the Career Dive podcast. I am so excited to have you as a guest today and to hear about your brand new offer and your journey to this offer. Can't wait to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be here and excited. I feel like it's a milestone to make it to your podcast. That means good things. So, thanks for having me again.
All right. Well, at the time of us recording this episode, you just signed your brand new offer right before we went live. You were and started recording. You were saying that you are now gearing up to start going back into the office, that you're excited. So maybe before we dive into your journey, maybe we start there. Maybe you share with us what kind of offer you got, because I know that you're very excited, and I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah, in terms of the offer itself, I had an initial offer, right, from the company. And previous to that, we had discussed ranges, my range, that's something that you coach to and how to present that and present it strongly and confidently. And also knowing and keeping things in mind, like the posted range. I'm so fortunate to have that as well, that insight. But building that offer based on the range and then working through the counter. And in my situation, there was kind of a company glitch going on with software on the back end. So had a lot of time to think about the counteroffer and have it fully prepared so that I could reply to it right away when I got the actual offer letter. And again, working with you and your resources to put that counter together in a really strong way. I even got feedback from the hiring manager around that counter offer and the wording and how we presented it. And it came across really strong. And we then were able to have a further follow up discussion regarding the counter and the details. And then they received that offer, went through it, and then they came back with a counter to that counter. And it ended up having some benefits that I didn't even ask for. So things like signing bonus, stock options. And so, really being able to do that for the first time was incredible. I really wish I had had this information sooner in my career, and because I probably would be, further along in my salary or have been bumped up sooner in my career, and having that confidence too around being able to provide your value through what your range is and being able to justify what you're asking for based on market research and all of the conditions. So, being really happy with the offer and also working through it with the hiring manager was critical as well. And being fortunate to be working with him all throughout the process and building that rapport so that it took a little bit of the pressure off in terms of negotiating because we had just developed such a candid relationship that we could have these conversations with ease.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And then maybe if you're open to it, sharing the kind of role that you got and maybe the kind of company that you signed with.
Yeah, so the role itself is technically like a customer success manager role, and it's with the largest broker dealer in the United States, which is slightly different than where I was coming from. I came from one of the top three banks in the United States, working there for 15 years. So yeah, it was a great fit for that reason. And I was able to feel really confident in my skills and ability and sell myself based on that because I knew that's what these companies are seeking. So I really was able to use that language of financial services and demonstrate my experience in the interviewing as well, which again, somewhere where I was not very confident in the past, but I was able to frame my examples and experience in such a way that really did communicate my value. And they really did want me. I was the only candidate.
I love
Not
that.
not the
Okay, I'd
only
love to
candidate.
get back
Yeah.
to that. I'd love to get back to that. Final question before we kind of get more into your journey to this role. I know we went back and forth quite a bit negotiating this role, and I know you shared with me how it compares the salary that you were able to get, how it compares to your previous salary. Would you be open to sharing that?
Yeah, so I was able to negotiate a salary that was 40,000 above my past salary. So obviously a huge win there. And that was a mentality I went into this entire process with. I fully believed in my heart that I should be being compensated more and that I was going to be leveling up. I think that is a challenging mindset when you're faced with a difficult job market.
This is very, very impressive that in this market, you are leveling up to a more senior role and plus 40K salary and having the mindset of, I am not going to settle, which right now a lot of people do have that mindset. So I actually want to bring you back to where you were when we first connected. I believe it was August, so a few months ago. I am curious, maybe you can walk us through where you were at that point in your job search, and maybe even kind of mindset and mentally what was going on.
So I had started looking for new roles in, let's say, end of January, February of that year. And I had departed from my previous firm mutually. So I had some benefits from that firm, including some career services. So I had a little bit of knowledge or had learned some things around the new environment around job searching, including the importance of LinkedIn, some of those things to update, resume, ATS, AI. They didn't focus really at all around networking and that. But networking has always been a very strong part of my job search and ethos. Every job I've ever gotten was through networking. It was the initial role at the firm was that way, and then every promotion or area I moved in with my past firm was because somebody was bringing me into that role. So I knew the power of networking. That was always my focus. Now, I had also been focused on specific firms because I just knew that I knew people at specific firms. So that's another thing the networking helps with is helping you also narrow in what companies. I had friends at firms that were, had job postings here where I'm at, and they said, I wouldn't recommend working here. So, okay, I just scratched that from the list, but thank you for your time and, willingness to refer me. But so yeah, I was very focused on a specific number of firms. I was interviewing with them and I had some inside connections, but they weren't maybe strong enough. And I wasn't maybe getting the interviews in some instances, or I was getting the interviews, but I wasn't feeling confident in my interviewing ability. And I got back into searching, but I also just felt like I'm missing something. And in this job environment, like I don't have time to waste trying to figure it out on my own. I need I need additional support. Like I need somebody who can help me hone in my networking. Somebody who can help me with my interviewing skills. And so when I came across the career diet, I felt very aligned with the offering because there are a lot of career coaches. There are a lot of different folks out there helping with resumes, different components of the hiring process. But I knew I wanted a program that was focused on getting to the key stakeholders, the decision makers, and support for interviewing. I didn't even know what that looked like because I felt so lost there, but the formula within the program is so straight. It gave me so much confidence. It made so much sense of everything for me. And then also having the additional support from you, Anna, and the community. So that was important to me as well, because a lot of programs give you resources, but then you don't have a chance to answer questions or talk through nuance, which was really important to me. So when I came to the career diet, I was very aligned. And so it seemed like a no brainer to me. And it also gave me like the motivation and accountability to really propel forward. At the same time, I had made a good connection with the hiring manager at the firm that I eventually received my offer from. So it was excellent timing because I was able to immediately communicate my value with what I had learned in the networking. And again, the process of me getting this role was rather long. And again, sometimes things happen really fast, and sometimes things take a long time for unforeseen circumstances. Um, and then by the time I got to interviewing, I felt really confident, and I had a project I had to also present to a team. So getting additional help, there's additional help in the program for presentations or case studies that I felt so confident and being able to get that feedback because I was either going to kind of do the same thing that I was doing and not have a job, or I was going to take action and get a job or a job sooner or get a better offer. So there really was no downs. Like it was all upside, I guess you would say.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love that you're sharing kind of where you were before the program, where you were already doing a lot of the things that we often talk about and I talk about around building those relationships and building your network and being very intentional. And you already knew the power of it because that has worked for you in the past. And you were getting interviews and you were interviewing. So a lot of the things were in place, but I guess by that point, that probably would have been a few months since you started job searching, right? If you started in the beginning of the year. So I love the mindset, Diana, where you say, okay, I'm doing something right, but I can do this better and I can do this faster and I can have better results if I get additional support and actually improve these skills. It's such a powerful mindset. You probably know that I'm a big believer in coaching and just going using that to go faster and get better results. So I really really love that mindset. And I know you spoke a little bit about your journey to this offer and being introduced to the hiring manager. I actually pulled your note that you shared with us in, I believe, September. It's September 22nd. And if it's okay, I want to read it because it's so, so powerful. And it really shows your timeline and how much prep and really intentional prep that really went into making this offer happen and making this big salary jump happen in this market. So in September, you said that I'm continuing to build the interview plan, which is something that we teach how to do, how to build an interview plan for each role that you're interviewing for. So, continuing to build my interview plan, I started to prepare for a role at this company that you signed with now. I had a chat with the manager last week, and he said he wanted to interview me. So, you are incorporating what the manager told you about the role into your planning in September. And then you said practice, 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 spend at least 2 hours each day with Speak GPT, which is our AI tool for interview practice. And that really stood out to me. And again, it's been months and I'm still thinking about it because you really showed that having that connection early on, having that intel early on, knowing that the role is coming down the pipeline, having the intel what the role is about, and preparing and practicing months essentially in advance before the role actually became a reality and you started interviewing is something that happens behind the scenes quite often, but I don't believe that people really see that often what it actually looks like and what it takes, and that it was months in the works. And you didn't just prepare the night before, but you were someone who continued to practice with others in the community, with Eco Coach Matt, with our Speak GPT. And I think I would love to hear kind of where your mindset was, because I could imagine that a lot of people knowing that, well, it's September, like the role is not posted, I'll get to it when it's a reality. But I love this mindset of 2 hours each day practicing for interviews before you even have an interview. So I'm curious to hear what your mindset was, because I know I push you guys to do this because it's so important to practice early on. But I'm curious kind of how you looked at it and how you maintained that momentum.
Yeah. I was a person who would prepare the night before for an interview. So I totally relate to that. And things didn't always go the way I wanted to. And I knew the STAR method because that's what we use at our previous firm, but I didn't know how to answer the basics. And those basic questions, like, why are you interested in this role? Tell me about yourself, seem really broad, but there is a focused strategy for how to answer those questions, right? And those are the first questions you're asked, right? So those set the tone for the interview. And for me, I really needed the time and the repetitive practice to go through all the scenarios I was potentially going to be asked. And I have a lot of experience. I mean, 15 years. So, how do you distill that? What do you pick from to highlight? And how do you communicate that in a way that is authentic? So, starting with notes and starting, with drafting these stories, these experience stories, or the tell me about yourself, and working through them in a way that is, how I would communicate them. Because it's not necessarily how I would write it, isn't exactly how I would say it, if I'm being honest. Because I tried that with Speak GPT and I would get really jumbled and bumbled. So just being able to constantly practice low pressure with a technology tool that's listening, that's recording everything, and just to say the words aloud was really critical. And then somewhere along the way, I was also testing the interview prep GPT as well. So that really kind of helped me take a couple stories and apply them to many scenarios as well, so that I felt really prepared for a broad range of questions. Because it wasn't just this role I was interviewing for, there was other roles, there was other people I was networking with in this whole time from August to now. And so while the roles were kind of similar, they were maybe in different industries. So I had to put on different hats and think about how to communicate my experience in different ways. And so the consistent practice was, it sounds like a lot, but 2 hours of your day, once you're already kind of built the pipeline of networking and you're in the interviewing phase, like that's where the majority of the time I felt was needed. Because it's hard enough to get someone to reply to you, get a networking call, you know, actually get to the interview. You cannot blow it when you get to the interview.
Mm.
You have to be like, no pressure, but like you have to demonstrate you are the best person for that role. So, yeah, I mean, having to practice was, it was also a relief to be able to say, I'm going to dedicate 2 hours a day to this and then spend time doing other things that, take the pressure off, like taking a walk with my dog or going to the beach, getting outside, going to the gym, reading a book. And because job search does take a lot of time and energy, and it's a different type of energy than your day-to-day work, because there's a lot of emotional investment in all your activity. You're not typically in your day-to-day job talking about yourself and selling yourself unless you're like a salesperson, which job searching is a sales job. I don't know any other way to explain that. I have supported salespeople my whole career. So, this concept of building a pipeline, networking, getting rejection, it's all part of a process. It's not personal. But it feels really personal when you're doing it for yourself versus selling, product or software. So,
Mm.
yeah, it's the interviewing for me was really, really where I leveled up with this program. And I learned so many. I'm going to be interviewing for jobs the rest of my life. So this is like totally invaluable information that I have taken away from the program.
Love that. And do you think that now in the future, do you feel like you now have kind of the tools and the strategy and really the approach and the mindset of how you're going to approach job search and interviews and interview prep differently now that you have invested all of that time building up your skill? Do you feel like now you can repeat this process?
100% without a doubt.
Yeah. And that's my
Yeah,
goal
no
for you
question.
guys is
Yeah.
not just to get this one role, but build and elevate your skill set, the selling skill set, really, so that it's something that is not really a problem anymore because you have invested all of these hours really building that skill set. So now it's a lot easier. I would also love to kind of take a step back. And I know that you mentioned that you were already using your connections and you were already networking. I'm curious if anything changed with how you were approaching that, whether it's the outreach, whether it's the actual meetings, whether it's converting the meetings into further opportunities, whether anything has changed in your approach there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just give one company, for example. So I have a lot of my close friends work for this specific company and they would refer me, and the company had a referral program. And I thought, okay, I'm referral, I'm in. Like it's like a courtesy. Recruiter has to call you. And that I quickly realized that wasn't the case. These My friends were engineers at the firm, and I was looking at jobs on the kind of corporate side of things. So there is some overlap, obviously, but even though my friend was is a very senior engineering AI manager, very important to the firm, it didn't really matter all that much, his referral, unfortunately. I thought it would carry a lot of weight. And so I had to think about, okay, I know so many engineers. I need to figure out how to expand my network with like the business side of things. And I don't know if we ever talked about this, but I really wanted to work for this company, and I, maybe I will someday. Something I did for multiple reasons was I would go to the gym, in their corporate gym, with my friend who worked there twice a week, and I would work out with her twice a week. I used it as an opportunity to network with people at, in the gym. Like she would talk to people, and then I would ask, what they did, connect with them. Another way that I, networked in, they would have happy hours at the firm. And this is somewhere you could bring a friend or a loved one to these events. And I would go to these events and again, network with people and meet people. I also just started asking other people, does anyone know anybody that works for this company? And the first person I asked um, knew two people that worked for the firm on the business side. So I started scheduling informal interviews and networking calls with them. And then I started I started to put the pieces to the puzzle together around how things are organized at the firm. So how their lines of businesses are organized. And then I would maybe even get people suggestions served to me on LinkedIn, or it was a title I could look for in my search. There's a lot of strategies for searching for people on LinkedIn that I learned in the program. And I ended up finding an individual who had previously worked at Wells Fargo, who we had like 80 people in common. And I started going to those, I started looking at that list. And the first person I saw was a person I worked pretty closely with at Wells Fargo. And he's a huge networking person. Like he's always at the chamber events, and so I thought he's going to help me get connected to her. Well, lo and behold, she's the wife of someone else I worked with. I just didn't connect. They had a common last name. So
Mhm.
I asked to be connected to her, and he said absolutely. And when I had a phone call with her, and like we had a magical connection, and she became my biggest advocate at that firm. And she was sending me roles, she was introducing me to directors. She was really going above and beyond for me. And so being able to develop such a relationship with a strong advocate was, it's they're doing a lot of she ended up I mean, she did a lot of the heavy lifting for me. I obviously, then I have to make the impression, and I had a couple interviews with that company. Again, I had an interview and then they canceled the role. They were really excited about this opportunity and then they canceled the role. So there's things outside of your control. And so you have to keep building the pipeline. You have to keep going. You have to have multiple things going on. I know it's hard because it's hard to focus in a lot of directions. But yes, I would say another area where the program helped me was just like my general outreach and kind of the the type of dialogue that you should have when you're reaching out to a networking prospect. Uh, that was really critical as well, and making it easy to schedule calls for them and reducing friction. So there were strategies we learned in the program around that people were really impressed by as well. So just like little tiny shifts that made me feel more confident and delivered better results within my networking were learned in this program. And I was able to go a lot deeper. And, now I have it kind of a snowball effect happened where then I was just being introduced to more people and more people. I had built such a network at this firm that, it's something, like I said, maybe I will work there one day and someone may come to me with an opportunity. I was speaking to one of the directors just up until today. She messaged me because I let her know that I did accept an offer with another firm, but I would still be interested in connecting with her in several months, 6 months, to kind of see where things are at because her team was growing. That was until I learned her team was growing, and so there may be opportunities in the future with her team. So yeah, she's excited to continue the conversation even though I have accepted this offer. So continuing to network is going to be part of my ongoing process. It won't be so intense, I won't be trying to contact 10 people a day, but I want to keep things going and leveraging my LinkedIn going forward. And in this role, I'll be networking as well. And learning those skills are so important because I'm going to a new firm. I know a couple people, right? Like I've interviewed for a couple roles at the firm. I have a former colleague that works there. I'm now have gotten to know my hiring manager pretty well over these last couple of months, but I have so many people to meet at this company. So thinking about how I'm going to go about that and make a good impression. Like I said, I'm at the headquarters. So I have a big opportunity to continue networking, not only for future opportunities within the firm, but just to continue expanding my network overall.
This is so powerful. Just everything that you've shared around really now knowing how to activate your existing network and really find those people that oftentimes we don't even realize are there. Hey, just asking a friend and realize, oh, they know two people within your target company, and having that as a habit and even knowing how to go about it. And then when that happens and that introduction happens, what do you do then? And I love that you talked about the snowball effect. Now that you kind of kickstarted that process and you know how to do it with introductions of people that you know already, but then how to also do it if it's cold, and really being able and witnessing for yourself that, oh, this is how you build an advocate. Oh, this is a whole other level from just someone giving you a referral link and not really knowing what to do with it versus someone is advocating for you, sending you roles, and really giving you all of that insider information of what's going on. And now I'm feeling like, you know what? There's probably still an opportunity there in maybe even the near future in the next few years, and feeling like I am never starting from zero anywhere. Like all this work, similar with what we talked about with interviews, all this work that you have put in is now you're just maintaining that, right? You're just growing those connections and those relationships. So I can see that moving forward, this is not going to be an issue anymore because you can now rely on those people and you can continue to grow it. And I love, love, love that you say that. Okay, well, I want to continue doing this. It's not stopping here because I want to set myself up for success long term. So it's so, so powerful. And again, love the mindset of I'm in a new firm. I need to build up my connections here. So it sounds like you already had a strong foundation coming in, but you were able to really elevate the nuance, the messaging, the habit, even sounds like the habit of continuing to have these conversations and meeting new people. And I know you said, it's kind of silly and crazy that you were going to the gym and talking to those people and going to the happy hour, but that doesn't sound that crazy to me at all. That actually sounds like almost like a low hanging fruit, because if someone can bring you in, there's a reason they open it up. There's a reason they say you can bring a friend to our happy hour. They don't do that because they want to meet friends, right? They do that because they want to meet amazing people, amazing candidates who they can hire. So I actually love that you did that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you joined us in August. You got introduced to this hiring manager in September. I think you got your verbal offer right before Christmas. So it really has been such a powerful journey in just a matter of 3-4 months for you. So I know we've talked about networking and we've talked about practicing and interviews and nuance. I'm curious, maybe looking back, what would you say were, if you were to summarize it, what would you say was the most valuable part or maybe parts for you of being in the program and having the support of the coach and the community as well?
Yeah, I would say it was the interviewing, like the the strategy for interviewing and the framework and the tools that went along with that, the two tools, the coaching support. Those are probably my top two, I would say. I think the second or the third would be the networking. Obviously, you can't get to the interview without the networking, but I needed a lot of work with the interviewing. So that's why those were probably my top. And then just being able to like talk through stuff with you and the community as well, because it's a lonely journey looking for a job. And oftentimes you're questioning yourself, you're questioning your abilities, your skills, you're questioning really small things that like normally wouldn't be an issue. And it just helped to reinforce and give confidence. So I would say the coaching and that one-on-one support is super valuable to me. I needed it. I needed that level of support. So yeah, I would say those three things. And then fourth, but really also important was the networking, or I'm sorry, the negotiating. The negotiating and so important. I cannot tell you like the mistakes I've made in the past and that people are still doing. And I don't know why more people aren't talking about this or feeling confident in negotiating, but it's a tough skill. And again, something that I can use in my toolbox, not just for job, but for other things in life, because there's a lot of negotiation that happens in life.
And I know that networking and I know that negotiating can be scary, and it is scary. And every time I help you guys through this process, I can feel the nervousness and anxiety and almost, overthinking every single word. And I actually really want to celebrate you for actually going and countering and having this conversation not once but twice, because that really does take that confidence in you that I can go back to them and I can have this conversation. And that is very, very powerful. But something I remember that stood out to me is that, what, if you remember, we talked through kind of the hiring manager themselves and what we already know, and whether, based on everything that you've learned about them, but it's been months since you've been getting to know this person. So we could really go back and we kind of knew what to expect in terms of reaction, and we knew the kind of conversations we can actually have, and we knew that we can go back again and have another conversation. So that's really all you, having built that relationship with them over the course of months and weeks, and also again feeling confident that, okay, I haven't done this before, this is probably very scary, and I'm also asking for a lot more money than I was making before. And, it's, as everyone says, is a, and I put this in quotation marks, but tough job market. I say tough because I say quotation marks because I believe it's a new job market. So really having that confidence, really, really celebrating you for a trusting me with that, but also for you to have that confidence in you and going back for the second time. That really takes a lot from you. So celebrating you.
Thank you. And I would say one thing too, like that is was such a shift in my mindset around negotiating is Negotiating and negotiating well provides this, like, it actually made the hiring manager see me in a different and elevated light. It wasn't a situation like a lot of people think I'm going to lose this offer because I'm negotiating. No, like they want it's almost a test, to kind of reinforce your value. Like that everything you demonstrated in interviewing and showing your value. Okay, now you're really push comes to shove, you're actually like reinforcing what your value actually is by negotiating. So it felt very powerful and I feel really great about it. And I think about if I didn't have this program, like what would have happened, honestly. Like I don't know like how that would have went down. Maybe I would have
Wow.
accepted the first offer or yeah, I don't know because I wouldn't have also been able to speak confidently about my range. So yeah, it definitely it
Ah,
was so needed. Like it's such a relief to have
so good.
participated.
And at this, at this level, at the seniority level in your career, it is so important to be able to have uncomfortable conversations with your manager, whether it's about money or whether it's about anything else. And you feeling that you can do it and having that confidence, but also, as you said, that also that test that, okay, what happens when I bring up and I have this uncomfortable conversation with my manager? That is a really good test because you'll probably need to have this conversation again with them a year from now when you are discussing your raise, but now you know what to expect and the kind of person that you're signing the contract with. So powerful. Love that so much. Thank you, Dana, so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your experience and being very vulnerable and open and sharing what was going on in your mind and the challenges that you had and your path, and sharing how hard you worked towards really elevating your job searching skills and getting now this amazing offer and starting this new year at a very wonderful place with a new offer and feeling excited. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Couldn't have done it without you. Thank you.